Okay, ma'am.
About Rekha. Rekha has not joined.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. No, nothing. I thought you were also one of the students.
Sorry, ma'am. मैं कुछ समझ. Sorry, ma'am.
नहीं, मुझे लगा कि आप भी स्टूडेंट हो, लेकिन नहीं.
Yes, ma'am.
So Sanmitra, today we will do the road not taken
Okay,
from
ma'am.
behind, and then we'll do tenses. I'm just waiting for other 3 children to come. Yes. Hello. Now who's remaining? One more boy, no? Will you pass it to me? Okay. Sanmitra's video is still. So let's start with the road not taken. By Robert Frost. Have you already done this poem in your school? All of you? No. Okay. Now, this is a very interesting poem. Here the poet says that he was just walking in a forest. Okay. And while walking in a forest, he came to a place where the road forked. You know, you have seen the fork. So where that means the road was divided into 2 directions. So now he stood there for a long time, confused which road to take. Both roads looked very green, very scenic. So, Rohan, right? Rohan, today we are doing road not taken. Road not taken by Robert Frost. One of the most famous poems. Okay? You have the book. Our Sanmitra has disappeared. So, road not taken. I was just telling them the gist of the poem.
रेखा
हा
स्टुडंट गेला का?
हा तेच कॉल करते तिचा ना नेटवर्कचा इश्यू आहे.
हा ठीक आहे चालेल.
So the gist of the poem is the poet was walking in the forest and he came to a place where the road got divided into two directions and then he got confused which one to take because he could see, he waited there and tried to see a long distance. You know, once you stand there and the road is straight, you can see a far off distance. And he saw, but he couldn't make out. Both the roads looked really good. Both the roads looked nice and grassy. Both the routes looked as if many people have walked on it. Okay, it was early in the morning. He was probably the first traveler. It was a fall season, and in the fall season, the leaves of the trees become yellow and they fall to the ground. So the road was full of yellow trees. It's autumn. Okay, in autumn, you see we don't have that distinct winter. In Mumbai, everything is, all the seasons are hot. So, but then in countries where you have distinct cold weather, where it snows, after summer, there is in between the winter and summer, there is this season called autumn, where the weather starts changing. And the trees, the leaves of the trees start turning yellow and then they fall to the ground. And by the time the winter arrives, the trees are bare, completely bare, without leaves. And therefore, the only trees that are standing with green color are those coniferous trees. You know, therefore, those Christmas trees are so popular because those are the only kind, like coniferous trees, because the snow just slips off those trees. Otherwise, if you see other trees, they have leaves, and nature is so great. Nature knows the leaves cannot hold snow, ice, and therefore it makes the provision. It just drops the tree just drops leaves. So in the fall, that is also called a fall season. So in the fall season, the roads are covered with yellow leaves. So he stands there for a very long time, confused, and finally he makes a decision. Which road to take? Which road does it take? What difference does it make? That is fun. The road not taken. The poem is about making. Now, this is a complete metaphor. Here, these roads indicate choices. In life, we always have to make a choice. When you just started, your parents had to make a choice. Which school to go? Which board to attend? CBSE or ICSE? Which is better? As you pass 10, you have to make a choice. Which stream should I choose? Should I go to science? Should I go to commerce? Should I go to arts? Which is better? Every stream looks good. You have the number of, people have been successful by taking science, they have been successful by taking commerce. And you wonder where should you go and what should you do? So in life, many times the life presents two paths and we have to choose one. So this poem is about making choices. This well-known poem is about making choices and the choices that shape us. Robert Frost is an American poet who writes simply but insightfully about common ordinary experiences. Two roads diverged in a yellow wood. The wood is turned yellow. Why? Because of the autumn or the fall season. Two roads diverged in a yellow wood, and sorry, I could not travel both. And be one traveler, long I stood and looked down as far as I could to where it bent in the undergrowth. He says he's very sorry. What is he sorry about? He couldn't take both. He wanted to try both the roads because both the roads looked very interesting. He wanted to find out where each one leads to. But unfortunately, though he stood, he knew. He felt sorry that he could not travel both. He had to take one. Okay. Did he immediately make his decision? No. He says he stood there for a long time, trying to find out where it goes, where does it bend? That means where does it turn in the undergrowth, that in the trees. Then took the other just as step, and having perhaps the better claim, because it was grassy and wanted wear. Though as for that, the passing there had won them really about the same. He waited there, and then he decided to take which one? The other road, he says. Both the roads were equally good. It had a better claim. He says it had a better claim. That road looked good. Why? Because it was grassy and wanted wear. It was nice and grassy, and very few people had walked over it. Not many people had taken that road. It looked as if that path needs to be walked. It wanted wear. It needs to be walked over. Though as for that, the passing there had won them really about the same. Both the roads looked same. Both the roads were walked by other people. This one looked as if it needs more people than the number of people had taken that. You understood so far? लोग तो चले थे, लेकिन ऐसे लग रहा था कि जैसे इसके ऊपर थोड़े और लोगों ने चलना चाहिए. The other one, first one, काफी लोग चल चुके थे. दोनों भी अच्छे थे. But this looked as if it needs a little more there. And both that morning equally did. Both the roads were looking equally good. In leaves, no step had trodden flat. Because the leaves were freshly fallen, no step had yet walked on this road. See, when you walk on the leaves get pressed and they turn black. Right? So, it was early in the morning. Probably he was the first traveler of the day. And no step had trodden black. That means no step. Nobody had walked on those roads yet. Oh, I kept the first for another day. Yet knowing that how way leads on to way, I doubted if I should ever come back. He decided, ठीक है, ये road अगली बार ले लेते. So he left the road for the next time. He said he will walk on this road and he will try, and then he will come back and try the other one. But he very well knew. What did he know? That he will never come back and try that road. He knew that very well. Say you decide to take science, but you're very interested in arts. You like literature, you like history. You want to do both the subjects, but then you also like biology. So you decide you will take science. And next time, I will see if I can do English literature. But you very well know once you take science, you will never come back and do your 11th again to do your English literature. He says he knew how way leads on the way. One way always leads to another way. Once you take science, you do your 12th, then you will have to make new choices. From there, you will go for maybe some graduation which will lead you to further studies. So one way leads to another, and if you choose one road, you continue walking on that road. You never come back and try a new road from the beginning. So he knew he will never come back because one way always leads to another, and you go on ahead. You go ahead in life and never come back to try something new. Yet knowing how way leads to way, I doubted if I should ever come back. I shall be telling this with a sigh. Somewhere, ages and ages hence, two roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less traveled one, and that has made all the difference. So he says, after some years, ages and ages from now, I will tell how two roads diverged. And which one will he take? The road less traveled by. The road that was less traveled by. Usually we all like to follow what others are doing. What is common. What everyone has done. Because it is easy to do. We know the results. Alright, so many people have traveled on this road. So many have done this course and they have been successful. So even I will be successful. So many have traveled on this road. They have reached their destination. Even I will reach my destination. We don't want to take a chance with something new. We don't want to try something new. We don't want to try the paths which are not walked by others. We don't want to be the first ones to find out क्या होगा आगे क्या होगा. We want to know the result first. ये करना है इसके बाद वो करना है उसके बाद वो करना है बस like said. We don't want to take chances and try new things. But our poet says that he took the chance and he. Hi Sanmitra, you're back.
Yes.
He took the chance and he chose the path which was less traveled by. And he says that made all the difference. What difference did it make? What difference did it make?
We didn't got a chance to travel there.
He
Didn't got a chance.
did not get a chance. Probably that's what made him so popular. That's what made him a successful man. He became a successful man. Yes.
I think he was able to write this poem at chapter.
Because-
That's why,
Yeah, he became a poet. Yeah, this is a different, unusual choice. So he became a poet, and that's how he became famous, and that's how he earned his money, and he really earned good money by this profession. So he says, because he took that path that was less traveled by, he was bold enough to make unusual choices, something that he liked, something that he wanted to do. He became a successful man. Read the poem once. Read. Though as for okay, 1 minute. Jasleen? Hello, Jasleen. Yeah. We are doing the road not taken. You're for 9th standard, right?
10th.
10th? Then you're in the wrong class.
मैम उसको जूम 1 में जाना है. जसलीन, आपका इंग्लिश का लेक्चर है, आपको जूम 1 में आना है.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay. Read. आज नींद पूरी नहीं हुई? पूरी हो गई. You want to wash your face?
They took the other justice and asked the witness because it was vastly motivated. So as for that, the passing they had told the great of the city. And told that morning is very great. When these two still had told it that, oh, I kept the first one another day. Yet knowing how we needs on to it, I doubted if I should ever come back. I shall be telling this to the side, comparing this against this friends, whose diverged in a good and I took the one less traveled time. And that has made all the difference.
Very. I'm giving you 2 minutes. Sanmitra and everyone, read the poem on your own and tell me if there is something that needs explanation. Done? I'll ask you the questions and then I'll give you a set of questions to write on your own. Okay. Why does the poet feel sorry? Yes, because he and we went travel. He could not travel both the roads. Where do the two roads diverge in? Yellow. In the yellow. Where did the two roads diverge? The roads had diverged in the. To diverge means they go separate. Yes. What is the mood of the poet in these lines? What is the mood of the poet when he says roads diverge? But he's confused. He is confused. He's a little confused and serious because he wants to make some decision. So he's confused and he's serious. Sanmitra, is the poem clear? You understood the poem?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. What does the poet mean by yellow wood? That means it's an autumn season. Okay, and
Dried up leaves.
yes, the roads are covered with yellow, dried yellow leaves. Okay. Sanmitra, how was the other road? How was the other road?
It wanted where.
Okay.
Means
The
nobody
other-
had walked on it, so somebody had to walk on it. It's like that.
Okay. So the other road was equally fair as the first one, equally fair and beautiful, and it was green, and it needed where? It wanted where? Somebody had to walk on. Can you tell me what is the rhyme scheme of this poem?
Yes.
Would, both, stood, could. So A, B, A, B. That's it. A, B, A, B. You all know how to identify the rhyme scheme? No. Okay. You know how to identify the rhymes. Sanmitra, any idea how to identify the rhyme scheme?
No, ma'am.
Okay. So let's find out. What you need to do is you need to see the last word of every line in the poem. Now the first word in the first stanza, the last word is would. In the second line it is both. Third line stood. Fourth could. Fifth undergrowth. Now we always use A for first line. Okay, first line is A. Does would rhyme with both? Does it rhyme, Sanmitra? No. Does it rhyme? No. Because it does not rhyme, we call it B. Then again check the first one. Does would rhyme with stood? Yes. So we give the same letter A. Does would rhyme with could? Yes. We give the same letter. Does would rhyme with undergrowth? No. So we go to the next one. Does both rhyme with undergrowth? Yes. So we give it B. If there was a word which did not rhyme with any of these two, then we would have given it C. Okay. So the rhyme scheme of the first stanza is A, B, A, A, B. And it is written A, B, A, B. Like that. Okay. Now, Sanmitra, tell me the rhyme scheme of the second stanza.
Ma'am, it will be A, B,
Yes.
A, B.
Okay, that's right. A, no. Then what will it be? Okay. If you take those two stanzas together, then CD, but otherwise you can start with A. If only one stanza is given, then you can start with A. Okay? समझा क्या? See, if there are, your rhyme scheme is correct. अगर एक ही stanza दिया है, start with A. अगर दो stanzas दिए हैं, then it will become C D C C D. Okay. Third one. A B A A B. And the fourth one is Psi, hence, I, by, difference. A, B, A, A, B. So the rhyme scheme of this poem is, of all the stanzas, it is A, B, A, A, B. Let's do these questions. Where does the traveler find himself? And what problem does he face? Where does he find himself?
Poet song.
In front of the two diverged roads.
Okay, in the, he finds himself,
At the point where the road divides.
okay, in a forest where two roads diverge. Found himself in a forest where two roads diverge. Where will you write these answers? Will you write it in the textbook itself? Or the notebook? But do they give you the questions from this? From the textbook, or it is only comprehension? Text back questions now? Because it is usually comprehension. So therefore I was wondering. You write the first answer. Okay, write the first answer and think of the next answers. One more. I think, yeah, so she tried a direction to go around seeing or something. So she was not able to away with four. Fine, yeah, because usually I'm on the game. And he was a member. I think. So then she was. So she said that for back somewhere and she has these people. Okay. Will you tell me the next answer? What do you mean by the yellow wood? Autumn season. Yellow wood indicates autumn season where the roads are covered with dry yellow leaves. Dry yellow leaves. So you mentioned that autumn season when the roads are covered with dry yellow leaves. It was grassy and wanted where?
It was covered with flora and vegetable.
Yes,
It
it
was
was.
dressed.
Yes, it was grassy. It was grassy means
It was covered with flora.
it was covered. Okay, it was grassy. It was covered with flora, or it was grassy means it looked beautiful and it was less traveled by people. It was covered with grass. It looked beautiful and it was not traveled by many people. The passing there. What does that mean? The passing there is the travelers who had passed on the. Though as for that, the passing there had warned them really about the sea. So the passing there means the passing travelers on the road. The passing travelers on the road. Is that a pencil here? Leaves no steps in leaves, no step had trodden black.
No, that's
It's
Yes.
same as the second.
Same as the second one. Okay. So the road was covered with leaves and no person had still stepped on it, and therefore the leaves had not turned black. Okay. The roads were covered with leaves. No person had yet walked over them. No person had yet walked over them. And turned them black. Did you all get the answer so far? Finish writing? Finish writing all the four? Yes. Yes. The last one, how way leads on to way. That is, one way leads to another way. One way leads to another way. Okay. Is there any difference between the two roads as the poet described in stanza 2 and 3 and in the last two lines of the poem? What will be the difference? No difference? The stanza 2 and 3. How does it describe the road in stanza 2 and 3?
In the stanza, the road was grassy and wanted there.
Yes.
In stanza 3, it was trodden. It's the people said.
No, nobody had trodden black in fact. In both stanza 2 and 3, he says both the roads were equally good. Both the roads were equally beautiful. Few people had walked over it. Okay. But that day, both the roads look same, equally beautiful. and looked as if both the roads needed people to walk on it. Nobody had walked on it yet. What is the difference in the fourth stanza? In the fourth stanza, the road that he took was, however, a less traveled road. Okay, so that is the difference. पहले दो stanzas में he says both the roads were equally good. Both the roads were same. Both the roads were covered with leaves. Both the roads, nobody had yet walked on both these roads. And it looked as if somebody had to walk on those roads. And in the last stanza, he says that the road that he took was a less traveled one. He took that road where not many people had traveled. ज़्यादा लोगों ने अब तक वहाँ पे travel किया नहीं था. He tells that to us in the last stanza. First, second और third stanza में he keeps saying कि वो दोनों रास्ते अच्छे थे. दोनों रास्ते were green, very beautiful. People had walked on both the roads. But we come to know the difference only in the last stanza. Okay. So how will you write? What will you write? So you will write that in the second and fourth stanza, in second and third stanza, the poet says that both the roads were same. Both the roads looked same. Looked same. They were equally good. Both the roads were fair and deserved to be used. And he wished to travel both the roads. And he wished to travel both the roads. What was the difference in the last two lines? In the last two lines, that is the next part. In the last two lines, the poet tells us yes, that the road he took was less traveled one. In the last stanza, he tells us that the road he took was less traveled by. The road he took was less traveled by than the other one. And his decision made all the difference. His life. And his decision made all the difference in his life. Yes. Any doubts, Sanmitra?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Let's do this question. Yes. Yeah, we'll discuss that. Let's finish this and then we'll go to the graph. What do you think of the last two lines in the poem mean? It's more or less the same answer. The last two lines mean that he chose the path which was less traveled by, and that made all the difference in his life. Okay, same thing. Have you ever had to make a difficult choice? Or do you think you will have difficult choices to make? How will you make the choice? Have you ever had to make any difficult choice? It's an opinion-based question. Sorry. Yes. That's the. What do you think of the last two lines of the poem? Me looking back. Okay, the question number 4. What do you think? Does he regret? Does he regret? No, even I don't think he regrets. Sanmitra, question number 4. Did you read the question number 4?
Yes, ma'am, I'm reading that only.
Yeah. Do you think he regrets for making that unconventional choice? Choosing a different path? He in fact probably enjoys it. What do you think?
He says that
Sorry?
We also wanted to try the other one.
He wanted to try. We always want to try everything, right? Whenever we have to make a choice, we don't like to make a choice. ये भी करना, वो भी करना है, सब कुछ करना होता है. But somehow we can't do everything. We have to choose. Do you have summer coaching? Sports? No sports in the school.
We have summer camp in school. We have summer camp in school.
So in summer camp, do you have sports?
We have church, art and craft, sports, vocals.
Okay,
Many church, 4 or 5.
4 or 5 choices. Many times during your summer camps, you have different choices, and you want to join football, but you also want to learn that calligraphy, and दोनों का timing same है. So you have to make a choice, and then you have to sacrifice one thing. You can't be at the same time in the basketball or football court and for calligraphy. So in life, you have to make, this may be just a small choice, but you do have to make choice many times. Do you always regret? You may not regret. You may enjoy football so much that you just forget about calligraphy. That yes, I also wanted to learn that. Maybe after learning football, you develop a passion for it and join a coaching for football, because one way always leads to another. Or this is a small example, so next year you might join calligraphy. But I don't think the poet regrets. He did make an unconventional choice, but he probably enjoys it. So, but this is completely your opinion. So you can write that he probably regrets. You think he regrets? How about you?
I can't say anything because he used to roll that all
That made all the difference. So it depends how you read it. Yeah. So it depends. It made all the difference. Or it made all the difference. So we don't know how his expression was. So let's hope that that meant good. He became so popular. Becoming a poet is an unconventional. It's not a very common profession to choose. So he chose to become a poet, became so successful. So yes, his choice was right. Have you ever had to make a difficult choice? Question number 5. Read question number 5. What will you say? Yes. You had to make when?
Subject selection.
Sorry?
Subject selection.
Subject selection. Okay. For the second language. Okay. Either Hindi or Marathi. You have to choose in 9th standard. So that's a difficult choice.
All the friends are in Hindi, but I don't want to.
Okay. So most of you have taken Marathi, you have taken Hindi. Hindi. Okay. What is your choice? Hindi? Okay. Well, that's what she said. Most of her friends went for Hindi. She wanted to take Marathi. What is your second language, Sanmitra?
Ma'am, Marathi.
Okay. Where do you say, Sanmitra?
Kharghar only, Hyde Park, Sector 35.
Okay. So, yes, he said. Will you be able to write question number 5? That is personal opinion. Yes.
That, for instance, we break a favorite class or other favorite class. We get a question, you should tell it, you should just pretend that, oh,
Oh, that's a choice. Okay. So, okay, make a choice whether to go go out and let her find it out. So that's the choice you want to do. We can stick to the simple one, or even this is a choice. Yes, he says he had to make a choice by choosing the subjects. Here the next part says, how will you make the choice? So how will you make that choice? You wanted to decide which subject to take. How did you decide that? How will you make that choice? Which subject has more scope? Okay. And how do you find that out? By researching. Okay. How did you research? From Google. Okay. Fine. So how did you find out? You can say I took the help of social media, internet to find out which subject has more scope, and then I made my choice. Yes.
Can I write
I know. You can't escape. You have to make. Here the answer should be yes, I had to make a difficult choice. And see, the common safe way of writing is yes. Or try to find out which is the best way nowadays. You have Google and you have social media, internet, so you can do your own research. The best another way is I consult. I talk to my parents. That is the easy way. Talking to the parents. So remember, whenever you have such a question, give credit to the parents. Okay? I make my choices by discussing with my parents. I seek their advice. They have more experience than me and they can guide me better. And second, you can write internet. Today, internet is very, very handy. So Google and other social media, we can find out a lot of information from Google and other social media. So whenever you have such questions, write about parents and social. Okay, that's a balanced answer. Maybe you make your decisions depending on where your friends have gone. Okay, all my friends took this subject. I also want that. Many times that may be the reason, but answer लिखते समय ये लिखना कि parents को consult किया, उनसे discuss किया, and then found out of the social. You can write down the points. Consulted parents, discuss the matter with them. Just points for any, what do you say, for any opinion-based question. सिर्फ points लिख के रखना सन्मित्रा. Consulted parents, took their advice, and then try to find out information from Google and other social media. Just one extra question. Okay. And that has made all the difference. Explain. And that has made all the difference. I'm expecting an answer from you. What will you say?
You might be telling that it's
And that has made all the difference. What does this line tell us? What did he do?
okay, he's a non.
Sorry?
He's a non-conformist.
He's a non-conformist?
Yes.
Okay, he's a non-conformist. And so what did he do? He took the road not traveled by many people. Yes, you can see he was a non-conformist. Good point.
And he wrote a story or poem on it and it changed.
Okay, he took a road that was less traveled by other people. He had to discover his own path, make his own new choices, and carve out his own path. He had to carve out his own path or make his own path. If many people walk on it, then the road is already made. When you walk on the road which was not walked by many people, then you have to find out what and how the way will go. Yes, it means, and that enriched his life. That has made his life more rich with experiences, new experiences, that gave him new experiences, that made him more mature, and that made his life a much better, he could lead a much better life. And yes, you can say he's probably a non-conformist. He was a non-conformist, so he decided to जो बाकी के करते हैं वो नहीं करना, कुछ अलग करना है. Will you be able to write on your own? 5 minutes will do. You have already written. You've already written. Can write. He was a non-conformist. He decided to take the road which was less traveled by. He therefore had to make his own way, path to reach his destination. That gave him newer experiences, enriched his life, and the poet says that made all the difference. Do you have? Do you have figures of speech? Do they ask figures of speech? In this, there is mostly alliteration and rhyme. And
Enjambment.
okay. There is imagery, there is metaphor, there is personification, and there is alliteration.
There's repetition.
Repetition is also there, yes.
Metaphor.
Anaphor is also there.
The first stanza, second line, third line.
And sorry, I could not travel both. And be one traveler long I stood and looked down. Okay, the teacher has given that as anaphor. There is see this second stanza, third line, wanted where, that will be alliteration. There's one alliteration. There is inversion. Do you know inversion? Inversion is, poetic inversion is the order of the sentence is not the way it should. You have inversion, you only have alliteration. Metaphor. Which line is metaphor here? Two roads diverged in a yellow wood. Actually, the whole poem is metaphor. These roads. Sorry, what is metaphor? Metaphor means when what there is comparison. What does these two roads mean? Is it really talking about the roads? No, he's talking about the choices. But to talk about the choices, he's called them two roads. Instead of making two choices, I had to make two choices. It will stand very drab. So here, that is called metaphor. When you, instead of saying, he's comparing between walking on two roads and making a decision, choosing between two things. Okay, so when there is a comparison, it is metaphor. So here, the first line is a direct metaphor. In fact, most of the lines here are metaphors only, but first line definitely is a metaphor. Two roads here means two choices. And as I was telling you in action, both that morning equally late. A sentence should be and equally. And only that morning. The words is called poetic inversion. Good poetic effect.
What is this?
The order of the words has changed. The poet has changed the order of the words to give a better poetic effect. In both that morning equally late, what is both referred to? I did not ask anything. And both that morning equally late. What does both refer to? The roads. Two roads that diverge, that separate. We'll do grammar now. Okay. Before first, let me the answers that we had written. Yes. I don't remember which. It's dry forest. The grammar exercise that I gave you, and I said I'll discuss the answers, subject, verb, agreement. Be the person. Study the person.
There dash is or are mistakes in your essay.
Okay. There are. There are 2 mistakes in your essay. So Mitra, do you remember I had given the exercise subject verb agreement, and I'd asked you to complete the exercise.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Let's discuss those. The first answer is are. Do you have it? Do you have that exercise?
Yes, ma'am, in the YouTube book.
Okay. Tell me the second. Okay.
The captain with all his team members dash were awarded.
You give me the answer. Was awarded. Third one.
Everyone from our class was present.
Was present. Yes. Present. Tell the fourth one.
Neither of my brothers
Neither of my brothers has any car. See that word I have given neither. If only neither, anybody, everybody, either, only neither and only either is there, then it will be singular. Verb will be singular. ₹5,000 was spent on a dress. Yes, Sanmitra, tell me the next one. Are you telling me the next one? Sanmitra,
Yes, ma'am.
tell me the next answer.
Sixth one.
Yes.
Ma'am, I don't know.
Sorry.
I don't know.
Okay. Tell the sixth one.
The great leader and statesman dash there
The great leader and statesman
is
is there. That's right. If you remember, yes. No.
States and
Different person. If the statesman is a different person, then we call a statesman. The leader and the statesman, or a leader and a statesman. Okay. So that makes them 2 different people. But the minute we don't remove that one article, it becomes one person. The leader and the statesman. The leader and statesman. Okay. So that means we are talking about the same person. Was there any more? Plural number 2 and 2 makes 4. Next.
The teacher as well as her students are
Her students present as well as. Because as well as also takes a singular verb. The teacher as well as the students is present usually. The teacher as well as the students is the husband. The teacher as well as her students. The closest subject is are present. And it will be are present. Yes. Sorry? Okay, none but the brave deserves the honor. Award. Award. Is that the last one? Okay. What is the last one? Give the answer.
Time and tide waits for
Time and tide
no
waits.
man.
Time and tide waits for no man. Today we will do tenses. So usually you have done tenses right from.
Yes, sir.
Should I directly give the exercise? No need of explanation. You know when to present tense, when to use present tense, present continuous tense.
Yes.
You want a table of tenses? Okay, I don't mind giving a table of tenses.
the tables that teachers will use.
But do you know when simple present is used? When, just a quick revision. Okay. First, I'll give you a table if you want.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. It is present. So, simple, continuous, perfect, and perfect continuous. Let's only write the sentence. Yes.
Present simple, it will be the
Simple present.
Okay. And present continuous would be plus ing.
Yes.
Perfect, it has or have.
Yes.
And perfect, as it be.
Has, yes, has been plus verb plus action. I'll give you one sentence. Yes, I'll write the sentence. So, I'll give a simple sentence. Raj plays football. Okay. What will be simple continuous? Raj is. Now I'll give you one. Okay. Raj is playing football. And here, if I say boys, then
Boys
are playing. So continuous is, are plus verb plus ing. Now, present perfect. Raj What comes in present perfect? And you told me no just now. Yeah. So Raj has played. Present perfect tense has plus past participle. You know all past participles? Has played football. And if it is boys, then
Was had played.
have played. So perfect tense is has or have plus past participle. You know all past participles? What is the past participle of eat? Eaten. Eat, past tense ate, and then comes the past participle eaten. Okay? Sit, sat. Sit, sat, sat. Sat, had sit. It is sit, sat, sit. Okay? Sit, sat, sit. Then no, no,
No.
K-N-O-W. No, new known. Yes. See, when you actually you know the past participles, the minute you say has and had, no, those past participles pop in your head. You just don't know these are called past participles. But if you really don't know past participles, then it is a problem. Okay. So, do you know the list? Do you have ever studied the list of past participles? Go, gone. Go, went, gone. Okay. Eat, I asked, no? Eaten. Then stay, stay. Mostly it is eating. Play, played, play. Read, read. Spelling is same, but it is pronounced read. So, past participle. Perfect continuous. Has been played. And if it is boys, have been played. Okay. Now, when being will come, yes. So has / have plus been plus been plus verb plus ing. So this is nothing but a combination of perfect and continuous tense. Okay, with been added. So combination of perfect continuous. So first you use the perfect verb, then you use been, and then you use the continuous verb. Now the question is, when do you use these? When do you use present tense, simple present tense? So if first person will not be in simple present tense, I will not come in simple present tense. What is normal? Okay, see, now we use simple present tense when we have to state a fact. The earth revolves around the sun. That's right, yeah. Okay, when we are stating some universal facts, scientific facts, we use do not waste water. Do is present tense. So the earth revolves around the sun. So when it is fact, universal fact, we use simple present tense. When it's a repeated action, something that you do every day. So I drink tea in the morning. I drink. Drink is simple present tense. Okay, routine. So it is fact. The second thing is repeated action. So fact would be earth revolves around the sun. Repeated action, I drink tea in the morning. And then we want to tell ability. We want to talk about the abilities. He reads very well. That's his ability. He plays football. He's very well. Okay. Or he swims good. So when we want to talk about the abilities, we use simple present tense. Got it? Remember. Just write down. I've written it in just points. When you want to state the facts, when you want to state repeated actions, when you talk about repeated actions, and when you talk about abilities. Okay. When do we use present continuous?
When the work is being done, or it hasn't been done.
Present continuous. So that is something that is happening now. I'm teaching. You're listening. Okay. So something that is happening now. To indicate that, we use present continuous. So happening now. I'm just writing here. I am teaching. I'm drinking tea. When I say I'm drinking tea, what does that mean? The action is on. I'm doing it now. Still doing it. And we use it for temporary habit or action. I'm traveling by bus to my office. The temporary action is going to end. That is happening now. It is temporary action. Okay. So it's more or less same. I'm traveling means that is happening now. Basically same, but we need to remember this. Okay. Temporary action and something that is happening now. Okay, Sanmitra? Okay. See, all these days you just learned this, how to change. Now you also need to know when to use these, because they will ask you to fill in the correct tense. So you need to know, they give you that way only, you know, the exercises, or they ask you to change the tense. You haven't started yet. Okay. So, see, usually in the earlier years, you were told to convert this. Now it will be fill in the correct tense. Usually all the schools do that. Okay. So it won't hurt you to learn this. When to use? When do you use perfect continuous or perfect tense? Present perfect. Then the action is completed. Okay. Perfect tense. Something that started in the past and has continued up to the present and continued up to the present. has great force. That means something that started in the news even now. Yeah, so Raj has ball. Football in the has played Barcelona. Okay, has played Barcelona or has played football for 3 hours now. Okay, this I'm just telling you, I just gave this sentence just to show you how tenses change. But this is a half sentence. Okay, has played football, कुछ तो आगे आना चाहिए. Has played football कहाँ, क्या, कब. Okay, so has played football for 3 hours. So something that started in the past and continued in the present. Don't get confused. When I give you the sentences, you'll be able to fill it in. And sometimes, whenever we use just, he has just come. I have just finished my lunch. So with the word just also, we use perfect tense. Okay. Whenever there is just in the sentence, we use perfect tense. And the last one, perfect continuous. And something, yes, what you said is also right. Something has happened. Something that has happened. But we don't know exactly the time when it finished. Okay? We are not sure about the time. So, time not known, time not known. For that also we use perfect tense. Perfect continuous. When do we use perfect continuous?
And when
Started
the
in the
action
past.
It started in the past and continued in the present. That's right. So we have been revising tenses for 3 hours. Okay. We have been revising tenses. So something that has started in the past and has continued in the present. Say, started in the past and continued in present. And also to sometimes to emphasize on some activity, something that happened in the past. Okay. I'll give you some few exercises so it will be clear. Then we go to past tense. Okay. Let's do present tense first, then we'll do past tense. Okay. Abdul dash. I'll write the words here. Huh? You write the correct tense of this verb. Can you see what word I have written here? Or should I write it somewhere here? Can you see the board clearly?
Yes, ma'am, I can see it.
Okay. So can you see I have written fast here? Can you see this?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Abdul dash since sunrise. What will be the correct answer?
Which tense?
That you identify and write. All will be the kind of present tenses, but which present tense that you decide? Which present tense will go there? Has been fasting. Has been fasting. Something that started in past, continued in the present. Good job. The president dash just dash. The word is announce.
That is just.
The president has. Oh, the president dash just dash announce the good news. Next, my brother dash my brother dash recently dash enter in the bracket, right? Enter the university. The word is enter. Did you get this? Next. He dash already dash a letter to his father.
He dash
He dash already dash. The word is given here. Right. A letter to his father. She dash us since 2004. She dash since 2004. She dash us since 2004. I dash not dash my poem. I dash not dash my poem, and word is learn. She usually dash in black ink. The last one. Right. She usually dash in black ink. Now you write answers. Done? I'll give you some time to fix it up. I'll give you a break and all.
You start.
After this, 5 minutes. 5 minutes. Ready to go. Done? Samitra done with the answers?
Yes, ma'am.
How much did they finish in your school? Because CBSE has already announced that they are going to stick to the reduced portion. Sorry? What? Yeah, it had come in the newspaper. What was reduced earlier? When did it come? It had come, it came in some last week or something. You already said that at least for 10th standard, there is the reduced portion. Mostly for 9th also. But what? You can get a better idea in school. Sometimes schools decide for 9th standard, the schools decide for themselves. So, who tell me what is reduced? None. Part of the lessons were reduced in history. Some creative writing was reduced in English. Sorry, we only have Russian revolution, French revolution, and France. Only. Done? I'll give you a break after doing the answers. Okay? Sanmitra, tell me the first sentence.
Abdul has been fasting since sunrise.
That's it. Very good. Yes. Let's start with you.
President has just announced.
Now, Sanmitra, can you hear when these girls speak?
No, ma'am.
Yeah, girls speak, please speak loudly.
President has just announced the good news.
President has just announced the good news.
My brother has recently entered the university.
Yes, very good. Yes,
He has already written a letter to his father.
he has already written a letter to his father.
He is not visited us since
She has not visited us since 2002. No? 4. Yes.
I have not
I
learned.
have not learned my poem. That's right. And the next one.
She usually writes in black ink.
She usually writes in black ink. Okay. Good job. So you've got the hang of present tense. Okay. Very well. Any doubt here? So now 5 minutes break. Sanmitra, 6 minutes break. It's 5:54. So we'll start at 6 o'clock.
6 to the last exam. 6:20.
Do in this break. At home, at least you can go around, no? No? Okay, now tell us about let's ask each one. Do you know each other? Do you talk to each other? No. Only 2 of you talk to each other. Do you both know each other? No. I've already asked you all where you stay. There's nothing much left. What do you like to do? You like to play, read, or draw? You like to play football or watch football? Play football. So where do you play? Okay, you go for coaching, football coaching. Where in your school? Near your house. Rohan, right? What do you like?
My free time.
Yes.
I usually read reports.
In your free time, you read which books?
I read reports about my business.
I'm sorry, I did not get it. What do you read?
Annual reports.
Annual reports and financial reports. That's what you said.
Yeah.
In your free time.
Yeah.
Okay, I thought I heard something wrong.
What
No, I did not. But I thought, okay, why annual reports? It's a hobby. You like to read the annual reports of the company. There. In
my
Financial Times.
no, actually they always publish on their official website.
Okay.
Just if I now search I will find them in their financial statements.
You read them. Okay. That's interesting. What is so interesting in that?
It's all about what you like. I mean, I love to read about companies, I love to see startups.
Okay. What do you like to do in your free time?
Painting.
Painting. Okay.
I like paintings. Like I have a book, like bookkeeping folder. I'm currently painting.
Okay. Okay, you're making a book holder. Okay. How about you?
I like drawing sketches. I can do drawing anytime.
You can draw anytime.
Like if I'm free, I start working in my notebook.
Same with you. How about you? Sketching and painting.
Painting.
Playing. You like playing. Ah, I love that. What do you like to play? Badminton. And sorry?
school we play basketball.
Okay.
I play basketball.
Basketball and that. So you're not into sports. I'm sorry, I'm coming back to you again. But then, hello?
I don't have it.
Okay. So you just go on Google and type the name of the company and write annual report. Okay. And
Then download the PDF. It's for the That's it.
see. But you understand everything that is written there?
Not everything, but there are some words which I don't know. Like that's some guys. But I think I can do it if I have.
Yes. Couldn't ask Sanmitra. Sanmitra, what do you like to do in your free time?
I like to play football at home.
You like to play football at home? Okay, that is unusual. And your mom allows that?
No, I play in the balcony.
Okay. Fine. So you keep playing football means you keep kicking the ball in the balcony, basically. That's the problem with the break. I give you a break and then I don't know what to do with that break. Should we continue? Past tense. Yeah, it takes the whole thing. Okay. So our next table will be about past tense and simple, continuous, perfect, and this is perfect continuous. So we have simple past tense. Let's take the same example. Okay, Raj plays. So simple past would be Raj plays. Okay. Football. Past continuous.
I was playing.
Raj was playing. And in this case, if it is boys, then
Boys were playing.
yes. So present continuous is are plus verb plus ing, and past continuous is was or were plus verb plus ing. Next is past perfect tense.
Raj had played.
Raj had played football. And boys,
Had played.
very good. And boys also. See, in case of present perfect, it was has and have. Raj has played and boys have played. But in case of past perfect, it's same for both. Had. Boys had eaten. So here, had plus past participle. Perfect continuous. Raj had been eating. And boys had. Now, when do we use these past tense? When do we use simple past?
Historical fact.
Historical facts. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. Historical facts are written in simple past. Yes. But they are rarely given to you. But yes, this is only for your information. Historical facts are written in simple past. When a definite time is intended, when a definite time is given, that time you write simple past. I lost my pen yesterday. A definite time. Okay. So when there is simple past, a definite time is given. A definite time in the past is given. Then it is simple past. I lost my pen yesterday. You know when it happened. Then it is a repeated habitual action in the past. We used to write dictation every week. So, repeated or habitual action of the past. When do we use past continuous? Something that has happened before. See, to indicate an action going on when another one took place. To indicate one action is going on when the second one took place. For example, he was reading a newspaper when I entered the room. So when one action was going on, then another action took place. So in that case, when there are two actions happening, the first action is usually in past continuous. Okay? So remember that. So it will be to indicate first action, to indicate an action. going on when another took place. When we use the words like all day, all the morning, the whole day, that time we use past continuous. I was working the whole day, or I was sleeping all morning. So remember, whenever we use the word all morning, the whole day, all day, we use past continuous. It is just one more thing to remember. When you use all morning, the whole day, or all day, and with words like always. When do we use past perfect? Yes, something that has started in past tense up to the present. Yes, something that has started in the past tense continued up to the present. But past perfect, usually, if two actions are happening, if there are two actions, then the first one that happens is written in past perfect, and second one that happens is written in past tense. That means, I'll give you an example. Let me check it out. He had forgotten my name, so I reminded him. I'll write the sentence. If you take Raj's example, Raj had played football when I went to pick him up. The action was over. So remember, when there are two actions, the first action that happens is in perfect tense, past perfect tense, and the second action is always in the past tense. Okay, two perfect tenses are never there. Or we never say Raj played football when I went to pick him up. Raj had played football. He had finished his work when I went to pick him up. Okay. So remember, past perfect tense is used when there are two verbs in a sentence. And then first verb is in past perfect tense and the second verb is in past tense. Okay. When there are words like when, so, then there are two actions happening. Okay. Is it time? 5 minutes. Okay. So two verbs. First in past perfect. Second in simple past. That is the combination of past perfect tense. And this, again, the same way, something that starts in the past. Same way, it's used very rarely. We had been waiting for the team, we had been waiting for 2 hours when the team arrived. It is not very commonly used, past perfect continuous tense. Okay, but this is again used to indicate something that started in the past and continued till the present. Okay, I'll give you only 3-4 sentences. And then you write those sentences and we'll discuss the answers in the next class. He dash, for that it is read. First one, read. He dash a newspaper when I dash him. The teacher, second one, the teacher dash into the word is given there. The teacher dash into the library to see what we and the word is do. I dash a lot of money on books yesterday. They dash surprise at the news of her defeat. She, next one, she dash study French for 2 years when she dash to Paris. Also to indicate the point of time, past perfect tenses. You can read. Almost you all are eager to pack the bag. Okay. I'll give you 2 more exercises next time. Read whatever we wrote today. Okay, go home and read it once. Read those rules. This, as I kept telling you, will continue till if you plan to give competitive exams. Even then, they will never ask you to change the tense into past perfect tense, change the sentence. They will always ask you to fill in the correct tense of the word. So you need to know when which tense is to be used. So now you will go home and do your homework. There is lots of homework. That's it, Sanmitra. We are
Okay,
done
ma'am.
for the day. Right. Sorry. Bye. You look tired. Good evening. Hello. What is your name? Kailash. Okay. Kailash, you were absent last time. Yes. Kailash, can you sit on the second bench? Yeah. So have you got your book today, Kailash? Yes. Oh, that's nice. Did you get treasure trove?
Yes, I got all.
All. To be on the safer side. You're in which school, Kailash? Vibgyor. Vibgyor. Oh, we have another girl in Vibgyor.
Yes, she is my classmate.
Oh, she's your classmate. How many divisions do you have in Vibgyor?
2 divisions
Two divisions.
of 9th ICSE and 2 division of 9th CBSE.
We have both ICS and CBSE in Vibgyor.
Yes, ma'am.
Today we will do the first lesson.
All champions.
What version of this? Of treasure trove, the lesson, the speech of the speech by say the Chief Seattle's speech. Okay, we'll do that because we'll go in an order because your school is decides third lesson first, first lesson that later, but we'll go in the order. Finally, we have to finish everything. And they have finished now already, Chief Seattle's speech in your school?
They are not started with treasure trove.
Oh, then?
Budget of things.
Same.
But they finished one lesson or one poem in your school. Next time we'll do Merchant of Venice, Act 1. Okay. Today we'll do present flow first lesson, and when if time permits, tenses. Let's read for other girls. There are how many more girls? 3 more. No? 3 or 4.
3, 4.
How much did they finish from Merchant of Venice?
They finished the chapter.
Act 1.
Yes. Act 2.
So this is the entire Act 1.
Yes.
In my school, 3 pages.
Until I was started.
You haven't started.
First 4 days and questions.
Okay. So was it helpful since you already knew it?
Yes.
Okay. Good. So today we will do Gypsy Act